Welcome to the Gamer Dad podcast, where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering and gaming. We strive to keep things fun, fit into our busy lives, because gaming's worth finding time for. I'm Gamer Dad Bob, a 30-year Magic the Gathering veteran, format hopper, nonsense deck brewer, and someone who still gets way too excited about clever card design.
And I'm Jesse Hoagie, a 30-year Magic the Gathering vet, a two-time girl dad, and still in a Thanksgiving food coma. Pretty sure I'm exiled under an enchantment called Too Much Turkey.
Are you sleepy, Jesse?
I'm very sleepy.
I'm a little sleepy too. We had a rough day in our household, but it's okay. It's because it's my birthday, and we're gonna get through this. So
happy birthday!
Oh, thank you. I'm 44 today, so 44 years young. Today we're joined by someone who has carved out a really distinct niche in Magic the Gathering content space, Josh, or as many of you know him, JMarGameDesign. If you've seen his Spellify Solves or his short-form card breakdowns, you know the appeal. He understands how Magic speaks. The templating, the cadence, the structure, all the tiny linguistic patterns most players never notice. And before we dive in, please remember this podcast is powered by you, our listeners. If you'd like to support what we do, head on over to Patreon. Most of what's there is free. Words are hard. It's where I post my blogs, essays, and deeper thoughts around Magic the Gathering, podcast, and production work. And if you want to chip in a few bucks, it helps keep everything running. The podcast, the gear, the time it takes to get this stuff right. It's completely optional, but greatly appreciated. And don't forget to stick around for flavor text or song lyrics at our midway point. Will Jesse try to stump me with something obscure, like he did last time, or pull something off my playlist? And before we jump in, let's talk about who's sitting down with us today, because Josh is someone who's brought something genuinely fresh to the card knowledge side of content. So Josh has built a growing corner of YouTube with over 1,100 subscribers and climbing, mind you, almost entirely through sharp, focused, card-level insights. He's become known for recognizing cards from almost nothing, decoding templating patterns in real time, and breaking down what makes Magic's language tick. That is hard to say. And I stumbled on it even practicing, and here we are live, and I did it again.
You got through it, man. It's all good.
And what's wild is that this depth came together fast. Not long ago, and we'll get into this into the timeline, he first picked up Magic, but he approaches the card file like someone who's been studying it for years. His work isn't gameplay, isn't discourse, and it isn't hype. It's clarity. It's pattern recognition. It's seeing the bones of the game translating into the content that people actually want to watch. We're excited to talk to him today about Magic cognition and what it means to carve out your own lane in a crowded community. Josh, welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you on. Jesse, I know this is going to be an interesting one for you too, as we kind of work through this. I can't wait to see what you come up with here as some fun follow-ups and everything, because this is unique, right? Josh has a unique space that he's carved out. I haven't seen anybody else doing this either. So, this is where it gets fun. So, Josh, what drew you to Spellify in the first place, right? And when did you realize it was the format where your brain just clicked?
So, my own timeline might be a little goofy here. I remember I was it came up on like EDHREC thing about like I think it was who is it? Like I think Scrimp on TikTok had put out the first like couple Spellifies there. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I started doing it, and it's like, okay, this seems like a cool little game to do. I think when I started doing it, it may have been like really early in when they actually started doing like the Spellify game stuff. Between that and like this is around the time when I think they finally were pushing Wordle really hard into Discord.
Mm-hmm.
So like everyone's trying to hop into their own Wordle games. So I started doing it, figured, okay, the problem I wouldn't say a problem per se, but like on my channel, the content I was trying to focus on at the time was somewhere between like long form, not quite Ristic Studies style content, but more just like longer form videos.
Mm-hmm.
And my frustration was like, well, I don't think I have the time with my particular editing style. I don't know if you guys look too far in my other videos, but most of it's like zero punctuation style, like animatic kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just harder to like mass produce compared to just sitting in front of a camera and just yapping for a while.
Right.
So I thought, okay, like, it's a way to make some daily content. Hopefully I can like whittle this down into a fast-ish enough system I can actually have some good content put out. And it just kind of I wouldn't say it became my life, but it is now actively a part of my daily routine. Like It is. I work at an LGS, so part of my schedule turns into, all right, I work like 12 to 10, get home at like 10ish, chill for a while. Midnight rolls around, and that's when the clock hits on Spellify. Like, awesome, new Spellify, let's dig in.
Okay, so these are happening like midnight. These
are happening like most of the time, unless it's like a lazy day for me, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. But I am generally doing them somewhere between like a minute to like 10 minutes after the card's gone live.
You're not tired or anything?
Jesse, that doesn't compute. Yeah, that doesn't compute for Jesse and I.
If you noticed if you go back far enough to when the earlier Spellifies, before I try to tighten up my editing and like the zone in stuff, it has like the, time till next Spellify over there, and it's more than likely ever like 23 hours and like some amount of minutes.
Oh man, I don't. The last time I stayed up past midnight was like this week, but it was because I was sick.
I wouldn't say I'm a night owl, but I'm also just like, it just makes sense to stick around for it so I can do it in the evening, record everything, then edit in the morning before I go to work.
Wow.
And is that something that you just picked up doing like quickly, or did you kind of gradually build up to it over time?
It's something I just kind of decide. I'd say it's more of like stubbornness. I kind of describe at least just my attitude. Something like, okay, I'm on a project. Sunk cost fallacy be damned. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna see the project through. And with Spellify, I just turned into doing it and like, okay, I can keep this up. And then it turned to, okay, well, I want to keep consistently having daily content, and I've done this enough now that I'm aware enough of my rhythms and how to put it all out. So it just kind of became the consistency, because obviously on any social media, video stuff, whatever, they reward consistency.
Yep.
And I figured, all right, well, if I can't have consistent long form, damn it, I'm going to have consistent short form.
I kind of pivoted to that myself, with what we're doing and how I'm putting shorts on my channel. And you're right, consistency is definitely rewarded. Although my short today is not performing very well, and I'm kind of bummed because I thought it was funny. Anyway, you live, you learn, right? So how did you train your brain as you were doing these to recognize these templating so quickly, right? Was it intentional practice? I mean, you mentioned stubbornness, right? Or did it kind of come together naturally as you got more engaged with Magic's language at the LGS?
So I'd say it's a combination. For one, I have a massive card game background. History-wise, I've been playing TCGs for upward like 15 plus years. My first game was Yu-Gi-Oh! Then I got into Magic, and just my brain's kind of always been like dialed and geared in for the card game stuff. With Magic specifically, part of it was I work at an LGS, and a lot of my job is going and entering our bulk and like going through bulk and just grading through cards. So over the course of a day, you see a bunch of cards. They might be the same ones, but you still see a bunch of them. And I don't remember exactly when, but it was from doing enough Spellifies and just all the card stuff. You just kind of pick up on like, wait, hold on, this is all formatted about the same. And it's, I don't know, pattern recognition just kind of kicks in after a while.
Yeah.
And now I wouldn't say it's very easy, but it is probably more consistently keeping streaks now compared to the early days.
So when that new Spellify loads at 12:01 a.m., mind you, what's the first thing you're reading? Is it the spacing, the punctuation, the templating? What's kind of your entry point? What are you looking at first?
So entry point, I'm usually checking the name. Generally, if a card is like is talking about like a named character, usually it's like an apostrophe somewhere in there for like a possessive. So like I think the one that came out today, if you don't want to do it in the next 3 hours, it's Chandra's Ignition. So it's like, all right, taking a look at the name. It's like, all right, if it's possessive, what Magic characters kind of fill in for about that name length? It's not Jessica's, because it's not Jessica's will. It's formatted differently. Another important thing is, I mean, stupidly enough, for like, okay, card type, instant sorcery, artifact, trying to narrow it down from there. Magic design, branching out into like all the other weird stuff of like, okay, like nowadays colored artifacts are a pretty common thing, but they're not as common if you go further back from like Core 19, as a for instance. So it's stuff like the name, it's stuff like the card types, it's stupidly stuff like, from that point, looking the text for specific. This is going to get like really, really specific, but like particular symbols. So generally, if something has like a hyphen in it, for instance, that's almost always like a choose X number type effect. Because the way Magic cards are formatted, it's going to go like, oh, choose one, big hyphen, and then like bullet points down the side. If there's a slash somewhere in the text, then it's either talking about a power and toughness change, so like a pump spell, or it's talking about 1/1 counters. In that case, it's like, cool, there's that little slash there, there's your digits, and then if you look to the next of it, that's, your kind of next inference for if it's talking counters or a different pump. It's kind of like adding up all these little language inferences kind of thing to then, in my head, go, okay, it's not talking about counters, it's talking about a power toughness pump. It's a creature, it's a legendary, or it's not legendary. We're like, okay, this has like 15 card types here. What is this going to be? It's just kind of taking the amalgamation of maybe not necessarily starting in one particular spot, because especially I'm really trying not to brag on this because I think this is a very niche section of knowledge that I don't think anyone should reasonably have. Of just like, yes, I can deduce a magic card from no text whatsoever. But like, it's these little things here and there of like, all right, what other, like, if you're trying to like vision it in your head, like the big one that I'm always kind of locked in looking for is an ETB trigger, because that's almost always formatted the same. It's always like whenever, this creature enters, or for legendaries, whenever card name enters, do XYZ things. And those are almost always like the easiest to kind of pick out. There's a lot of stuff as ETB effects or when dies effects or all that. And it's really like kind of just finding like an anchor and then using that as like to use like a code analogy, like a binary search tree of like, okay, every little new piece of information keeps whittling down the available card pool, and just kind of going from there down until finally, cool, it's like XYZ card.
So each time you're able to kind of infer something, you reach like a pivot point where you're like, okay, now we go here.
Yeah.
Reasonably because of. Now we go here because of. Okay.
You got it.
That's interesting. So you mentioned in your panel in Atlanta that the templating repetition teaches you how Magic speaks, basically, right? How much does that inform your Spellify guesses? Because there's clearly the right way to template cards, right? For ease of reading, for ease of understanding and stuff. So just the flow of the text on these cards teaches you how Magic speaks. So how does that help with your Spellify guesses? You talked a little bit about enters the battlefield and stuff like that, but what else is there?
I mean, the big, like, I'm trying to, I guess point out some specific things, but like generally, like card formatting it's one. I mean, I think the panels on YouTube, but like the big part of it is like how Magic organizes information physically on the cards. So generally, it's even doing things way before like an ETB's trigger or leaves. It's doing like, here's a static thing that might be changing how you actually cast the card or an additional cost to cast the card. And then from down there, it's talking about static effects. It's talking there about like sometimes it changes between some cards, but it's like generally goofiness,
flying,
or
first
keywords,
strike,
static parts of the cards, and then going to the things that maybe we as players more pay attention to, like ETBs, dice triggers, leaves triggers, and then the really goofy stuff down below, which I thought was really weird, that like Threshold and Metalcraft tends to just like sit towards the bottom of a card, which I guess makes sense because it's something that's a little more fluid and maybe not always as relevant to a board state.
They're also conditional abilities, right? Because they might not always be turned on. Metalcraft, for example.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of how that has taught me styling of a card, maybe not so much as styling, just more as helping to recognize, per se. Just like of all the, just kind of like how Magic, like the big one, maybe that isn't as realized. Scryfall uses, because EDHREC pulls from Scryfall to make the text of the cards. They're pulling from the most recent erratas, which doesn't seem super relevant, but then there's the thing that happened pretty recently that now
enters.
The enter stuff, but more specifically, instead of saying like when entire card name enters, it'll just whittle down to when this artifact, this creature enters.
I missed that.
Which is, it's not, it doesn't always come up, but it's a thing there where it's like, okay, now it's like a more recent-ish print kind of thing, or just more recent errata. I guess I've realized I keep deviating away from the question, but for like, how is it?
No, I get you.
Yeah, but just like where it keeps with the, I guess to boil it down, it's less that it's teaching about necessarily, for me, how cards are set up, just more of like reinforcing, like, okay, here's how all this information is spread out necessarily for players and just understanding the cards.
That idea that Magic having a language, when did that start to like click for you?
Maybe I don't think necessarily ever clicked per se. It was, I think, more of like when I was actually putting the stuff together for the Spellify panel and, trying to organize all my, I mean, genuinely, because it's like a thing that in the moment, because like when I'm doing Spellifys, they take, I've had some longer ones, but the most amount of time that a Spellify generally takes me is somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes. On average, probably more like 5. So it's really small chunks that you don't really kind of sit on. At that point, it's like, all right, you did it. It's like potato chips. It's candy kind of thing. You consume it, and then it goes to the editing bay to start being worked on. But it wasn't until I was actually sitting down to try and articulate my thoughts for Spellify, because I realized, okay, this is like kind of a goofy little game. What are the points I actually want to talk about? And then I kind of sat down, kind of thinking through, like, okay, what's like, how to explain to people, hey, here's how a Magic card is organized. Like, it seems super, like, niche, but then again, especially with stuff like Secret Layers, people having their own thoughts nowadays for how stuff like Universes Beyond should be, expressed in the game. You have maybe not a massive push, but a rise of people wanting to make custom cards. And not to be like, oh, well, people should make like counterfeit cards and put that into the atmosphere and have people like be like, oh, it's a fake leak.
Yeah.
But I think it's warranted, like, hey, if you want to actually have something kind of legit that have it be taken seriously as a design by the community, you should know how to format it. It's kind of like if you're writing like an essay, you should have some semblance of proper punctuation, proper annotations kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of going back, the language lock-in really came up when I was organizing my thoughts on the Spellify panel. Like, okay, how am I explaining this? And then realizing, wait, hold on a minute. There's just a bunch of little, like, really tiny things of like, all right, here's this giant graph of oddly important words based on letter counts. So, like, all right, 4 letters. What's important in that you don't realize? All right,
Josh had like four slides of that, like with just words on, and he's like, these are the 4-letter counts. These are the 5. They were just riddled, these slides.
I realized in hindsight that was awful, because who the hell is going to look at all that and actually try to, like, all right, let me try to look at this from my seat 30 feet away.
I was sitting in the back too.
But just like little things like, okay, 4-letter words in Magic that like are relevant to understanding a card. It's like, okay, does it draw? Does it talk about a card? Is it talking about that? If it's talking about, like, targeting and all that, or even 6 letters, target, different colors, because Magic doesn't do things like other card games where it'll have like an iconography. It'll just word out most of the pertinent text. Or like if it's single digit, that's the whole numbers game with like the counters and pumps and all that. I keep like looping around the questions. Basically, when I started actually making my panel, that I realized, wow, this is actually way deeper, and I hope I can better explain this to people. They can understand it.
I think that's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool, actually, in a sense, because you kind of backed yourself into a corner. You're like, oh shit, I'm committed to this panel now. How do I get this information to my audience?
I'll be so real with you. I submitted that panel along with my creator badge application, thinking they're not. I'm thinking like, I mean, like my creator badge record's been kind of crap. They're not going to take the panel because who cares about Spellify of all things? And then I got the email back. I'm like, oh, I have to make this PowerPoint now.
Yeah, I feel that in everything that you're saying. I mean, we kind of got that. That's where that was going there. That's so funny. So what about Spellify that lets you showcase your Magic brain, right? That like normal gameplay or playing a game of Commander on Spell Table or something like that. How does this let you showcase the way that you think more than gameplay or other content? So
for me, the way I like to play Magic is, bluntly put, I love combo decks. I am a combo aficionado at heart. And I wouldn't say part of this is to show like, yes, I'm just that, I'm so much smarter, I know more about the game kind of thing. I like with Spellify that you can kind of demonstrate just kind of like, I'd say brute kind of card knowledge. It feels good when it's like, oh, here's maybe a card you haven't heard about kind of thing. Even though it's pulling, as Andy talked about in the panel, it's pulling from not an unknown list of cards. It's pulling from, I think, like the top 500 or so. So it's not stuff you probably haven't heard of. But there's still a couple here or there that are like, oh, I've never heard of this card before. But for me, at least personally, I like being able to express just kind of my raw knowledge of a game. As much as I say before, like, oh, I'm so much smarter. It's just more of like the niche interaction stuff. When I got into Magic, one of my, I wouldn't say formative experiences, but when I moved out to actually live on my own, buy my own Magic cards, one of my more formative experiences was hopping into a pod with my friends who did, hey, let's do a 6-man group hug game, which is I'm not the one in group hug, but it's like, all right, 5 guys on group hug. The stack is the stack's a Jenga tower, like every interaction.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting sunk into the rules. And I think it's really cool to be able to, like, kind of show off, like, hey, here's, like, my just general card knowledge. And I think from there, it lets you expand into, well, if you know the cards, then maybe you understand how they interact with certain decks. And that's how you can then get some cooler stuff in deck building where it's not just like, oh, here's your typical Atraxa deck, here's your typical Dragon deck. There's at least like some novelty you can bring into otherwise exhaustive decks.
That's Jesse and I have talked about how we don't really feel that EDHREC is good for the game in several places. So kind of that full on amalgam of same decks is really exhausting to us from time to time. So it's interesting that you say that.
I can agree on like the some levels of agreeing that definitely, yeah. The problem I think is more, I think like Silver Snail that people talked about, it's more so how people use EDHREC. Because like a lot of times people just kind of pull from like the average deck basically. It's like, cool, throw all these into the list. And I don't like on the one hand, it's great that there's such a big resource that if you have no idea where to start with something, you have a pretty easy template or something to run off of. The problem is, I think when people zone in way too hard into that and don't bother to really expand out. I mean, people expand out with like their pet cards. But it's more so when you're just not considering, I mean, you know, Magic is a game with like 10,000 plus game pieces. It's like, why limit yourself to the top 200 on EDHREC kind of thing?
That's where we're at also in that sense. And newer players may not have that nuance or that curiosity either, and they just get what EDHREC just feeds to them, and they're like, well, these are obviously good cards, so must put them in my deck. Prices be damned, or whatever.
There's a fine line that I think people need to draw, and then maybe something needs to be expressed to newer players more. I wouldn't say forcefully, that's not the right word, but like more out there to them to be like, hey guys, like EDHREC is a great resource to understand where like the player hive mind consensus is, but make sure, you know, and then from there you can start digging into like some of the other stuff of like, okay, the stuff that's like the negative percentage list kind of thing, where it's like, okay, actually this might be kind of interesting to throw in.
Yeah. So do you have, changing gears back to the cards, do you have a favorite, like, I know exactly what this card is moment, or one that like you have just blanked?
Okay, so my favorite, I think, was like Chromatic Lantern. That was like, okay, like there's a couple, and it's like a lot of times I feel like when it's a card that I know, I feel like I more have to talk to pad time to be like. I was
just gonna say, have you ever just dove in and been like Chromatic Lantern?
Like, yeah, no,
that's the short.
I've never had it where it's just that short, because I think that's a bit of a like disservice to it to not break down what's going on. But there's some where it's just like, okay, I know what this is. I gotta pad the time and explain like why I know it's XYZ thing. There are two that stand out as like almost shattering the streak whatsoever. There is Sereth Viper's Fang from Midnight Hunt. It's a green drop that like your tapped guys have Death Touch, your untapped guys have Hexproof. You can pay one and tap it to untap something. That one I just was like, okay, I just kind of Hail Married on like the last part of the name. I just wasn't sure what it was. More recently, I think it was like last month or so, Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs, from I think originally Worldwake. It's like it's a red legend
card.
It's like anti-Ghostly Prison, where it's like if you want to you have the you have a copy over there?
It's sitting on my desk.
Hell yeah. It's like anti-Ghostly Prison. It's like you pay 3 or you get you just like fill out the crackback for it.
Yep.
With like a bunch of ogres. And I vividly remember I was staring at my computer for like I think that one might be the longest raw footage for a Spellify at like 20 minutes. Where I'm just like staring at my screen going, like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm gonna die to this dumbass red creature. And something clicked of like, okay, I think I know what this is. I know what the effect is. The name is stuck here. And I just sent Kazul and I got it. I was like, I'm not dead. Let's go.
Kept the streak alive.
Everyone blanks on cards, obviously, sometimes. Do you have a white whale?
Thankfully, like Kazul's the closest I think to being the white whale of like not getting it. If I did hard mode, I'd probably have a couple more there. I'd want to do more hard mode, but the problem is that I want to like be able to edit my stuff out in a timely manner, and I think hard mode would just be too much editing for me to have to do along with the regular Spellify stuff. I should do hard mode. It's just because I'm starting to see some duplicates actually pop up that I've seen before on Spellify. So I think if I keep seeing some duplicates, I'm going to go, okay, let's see what hard mode does, and if I can get something funnier from there. But like at the panel, I don't. God, I think at the panel, I don't know if I would have gotten it was like some random land, like one of those game lands from.
Oh God, that's right. It was from Bloomborough.
Yeah. Oh no, it was the Lily Pad Village or something.
Lily Pad Village.
Yeah. I don't know if that's one that would have been like the white whale, but that's one where I was like, I don't got a clue what this is. Audience, give me your best bet.
We got there. We got there. I was blanking really hard on that. The rest of the audience helped us out there. That
Props
was
to my
good.
buddy Jordan.
Yeah. So you touched on this a little bit, but let's dive in a little bit deeper here. So how did your Spellify videos evolve over time, right? So obviously you kind of dove in, you threw some editing together, and you're like, okay, this is going to work. But what changed from your early attempts to the rhythm that you've settled in now?
So the bones remain about the same. The meat is, I think, where it's a little different, because before it was just vaguely just like recording just the Spellify screen and then just kind of going from there and just my audio, and then event, because at that point I was still trying to be like a faceless YouTuber type, just because like I not that I'm like, oh, I don't want to show my face online. I have my own website that has my face from LinkedIn from like 5 years ago, so it's not like it's a privacy thing. It's just more of like, well, how long should I keep the face thing going to like face reveal? But it turned it from more of that into like, okay, let me add like my face cam into this to then have like my reaction, because maybe that'll like look better kind of thing. And then another part of it that happened was captions. Surprisingly, up until recently, I was doing my captions all by hand.
You'd go in the editing, you'd go back and oh man,
yeah,
He's just typing them out.
Yes, I mean, actually, I'm now using different software for. The reason why is because I don't use CapCut for my videos. I use Sony Vegas, but I don't. Sony Vegas, the version that I'm using, doesn't have a like an auto caption feature.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to, then it's like cool. I got to drop 300 on like Sony Vegas 23 or something like that. So for a while it was like, all right, cool. I want captions in here because captions seem to do well socials wise. Let me just type those up. And then like some other little things like, okay, like positioning where the camera is, having the little border on there. Up until recently, I got some help from a girl with the green suit to like kind of help with like how the setup of things is. And then the one that I'm genuinely the most happy about kind of recently, if you know Deep Pocket Monster, he does the should I open it or keep it sealed Pokemon openings.
Yep.
And I decided, well, I should have a jaunty musical intro in my videos too. So I have the little Spellify intro in there now. 13 gets for car to see it's Spellify and 60, and I have the little like logo kind of pop in, kind of rolling for it. I don't know if I want to change it more from there. I'm liking where the formatting and just kind of how everything is set up right now. Yeah. I mean, most of it, like I said, has been just kind of like meat and presentation rather than like the bones. The bones have always been the same. It's been, all right, can I like get this done as fast as possible? I'll be honest, the in 60 is kind of a misnomer. I think in reality, like most of the videos, the raw footage is probably like 4 to 5 minutes, because it's like half the time me yapping about the card at the end and cutting stuff out, or it's like just, you know, taking a little bit longer to solve the thing. But I was trying in the beginning to really keep it down to 60 seconds, and then YouTube Shorts opened it up to be 3 minutes long. So I was like, cool, I have some breathing room to like make some more edits and actually let this breathe a bit instead of just going like, all right, see you guys next time.
That sounded like Voldemort. It just goes through my head. Like, yeah, exactly.
That's how it goes.
Does it feel different going back and watching those early videos compared to the ones that you do now?
Oh yeah, I look at that and go, wow, I can't believe I let these out.
But they're an archive, right?
Yeah.
That is historical footage that needs to stay there.
Oh man, if we're talking like looking back on things, I was checking just out of raw curiosity today. I've been adding to the playlist on YouTube since I've been publishing them out. There are now almost 600 Spellify shorts. That one hurts just a little. Like, God, I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. What are you talking about?
That's a trip. That is a trip. That's a hell of a streak too. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you said you got into a rhythm. This is just what you do every day. Clearly in 3 hours, Josh is going to be doing the next one after this podcast. So
you are absolutely correct. I don't like you clocking me like that, but you are 100% correct.
I mean, this is where we're at. That's all right. We're going to give you a little bit of a buffer and a lead in. You get to chill after this, and then boom, right into it. We'll be looking for it next. Mm-hmm. So, do you ever think of Spellify as like a form of design training? Like sharpening your ability to understand how Magic communicates through card language?
I'll be honest, it's one of those things that also probably didn't come up till I was actually working on the Spellify panel. Because at that point, it's just like, okay, just like knowing the card information. But obviously, as I'm going into it to kind of want to explain to an audience why they should care about this thing as much that I care about it, as much as it is like a little bit of bragging rights. Like, cool, I know a lot about Magic, but also like, okay, if just bragging rights, you know, why should I care about this?
Mm-hmm.
like I said kind of before earlier, there's a growing sentiment and just group of fans that want to make their own cards, and it makes sense that they should have an idea of the design language and design etiquette of Magic in order to express those designs properly. I mean, bluntly, if you ever go into like r/custom Magic, I'm pretty sure for a while they had like a post that was like the 5 worst rated submissions this week. And part of the poorness of those submissions for some of them is like, yeah, these designs are like bad or not good or just not healthy for the game. But half of them is the formatting's bad. They haven't set it up correctly. It just looks like a very sloppy attempt to design a card. And I think on some level, Spellify helps for that, at least for presenting cards to people, because you obviously, it's still pulling from like a very well-known list of cards. But I mean, in that case, like, well, cool, these are so well-known. These are probably the ones that people really like. So not only are you learning on some degree how to properly format a card, there's also the level of why do people like these cards? It's not something that Spellify like makes public, like, oh, hey, this is the 500. I mean, I literally only found out the whole 500 like count information at the panel with everyone else. It's like news to me too. But I think it just helps people by exposing them to the language, and kind of like with me, like for going through it so much, you pick up, if you want to like kind of sit down and just go through it every day, eventually something's going to stick. And you're going to recognize how Magic organizes their information. And by knowing how that information is organized, you can better express yourself with your cards to the community at large. And whether the ideas are good is up for debate, but at least your formatting will be correct, and people won't have an easy out to discredit your ideas because something isn't formatted properly.
Kid can't even read.
That's just card game players, though.
Little Billy Madison for you. So you talked about this a little bit, right? So a lot of the 60-second boundary just became out of shorts needing to be 60 seconds or anything. But do you set your own actual constraints in your head? Like, do you have a clock that's going off as you're doing this and you're like, oh no, I'm over 5 minutes. I got a lot of editing to do. Oh no.
It's like in my head, it's me looking over OBS and seeing like the recording time. And I'll be half the time the recording constraints are more so me going like, oh my God, I have to edit this in the morning. But I mean, like the constraints are really more so just like the combination of bragging rights, more just like wanting to like show off that knowledge of, I can get this done kind of quickly. I'd say the comfortable amount is somewhere between like 3 to 4 minutes of like the entire thing of solving the card and then yapping about it for a while. My constraints that I try to basically like spend not a lot of time solving the card and then maybe a minute or two talking about it later, to then like whittle back down and editing, and then however much time between like ad reads or anything else that I want to throw into the video. Initially the time constraints were like, oh man, I like really hard and fast, like I gotta do it this fast. I think there was one where it just took like 10 minutes to solve, and I'm staring at it later that morning like, how do I get this down to a minute? Because part of the problem at the time was like YouTube Shorts having to be a minute long, and at that point it's not even out of like, oh, can I show solving the card in a minute? It's like me wanting to show the thought process too, because I think like if it was just, I'm pretty sure we'd agree, if it's just like me looking at the card and then going like, this is the card, that's not really like that's not an informative video. That's not like, that's not
a good
engaging.
April Fool's one, by the way.
That's a good one. That's the thought. Just like, all right, here's a card. Bye guys. And just
see you next time.
Cut to black. But no, like the constraints are more of like kind of wanting to brag, and also just like for convenience sake of wanting to kind of get everything down into a nice format. One of the things that I think I'm at least kind of good at is taking a bunch of information and getting it down really into like a bite-sized chunk. I was working on one of my long forms was the Sammy deck profile, or the deck tech on like the Sammy from Edge of Eternities. And I'm reading through with one of my with Girl in the Green Suit, actually. She's helping me write the script for it. And I'm kind of going through, and by this point I've gone through like the mana base, the creatures, and it's getting to like the it's probably about like 4 or 5 pages of script, and I've gone like in my recording about that point it's maybe like 4 or 5 minutes, and she goes through with me, she's like, how did you explain all that in like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
It's just too much information. But like the time constraints are really more like combination of recording and more of me wanting it to be kind of fast, because I realize Shorts is just like, okay, you can't really be lingering way too long on things. So my timer is really the amount that I am comfortable trying to edit down later. And if it's too long, then I will. It's not a bad. It's not like a bad outcome. It's just more of me being angry with myself. Of like, come on, dude.
It's a rougher morning.
Get it together.
I get it. So you kind of answered my next question. Come on, Josh, you're killing me. So you talked a little bit about striking that balance, right? I want to yap a little bit about my thought process, but we also need to solve the card, and I need to edit that down. So that's important. I think you strike the right balance, right? I think you found that balance.
I tried to. I honestly, one of the things that I hope people actually do is stick around past solving the card, most because like I'm starting my YouTube analytics for like, okay, where are people like engaged with this video? And I can't deny the links, the graphs are very similar across most of the Spellifys. It starts like kind of big, does like a little thing, and then about where you solve for the card, it just like not a quite like not a 90-degree
right,
drop.
It doesn't crater.
It's not a crater, but it's like, oh, let's do a half pipe kind of thing. I'm like, all right. So
I've found that too with my Pendragon decks of the week. Once I've named the Arthur and the Excalibur, they get it and they dip. So the payoff is the guessing the card, right?
Yeah.
So, and how do you work that into your analytics? Like, well, I can't not guess the card. That's my shtick. So how do I slow roll it? Do I slow roll it? It's tough.
That actually is another thing I should have mentioned earlier for how it has evolved. I have now, for better for worse, as a way, because I realized what happened before is towards the end of the video, that's where I would do some advertising, like, okay, subscribe, please check out my affiliates, support the channel. So for better for worse, I've been putting a little bit like right before I solve the card of like, all right, and it is, and then it like little tension bit, and then it goes, before you do this, before you see what it is, if I'm right, hit the bell, affiliates, yada yada, and then finish it off, and then go yapping about the card thoughts.
Yeah, the payoff matters. It truly does, and that's what you get from looking at analytics. So, I mean, you're doing it right.
Is there a point where you realize that this format feels like me?
I don't think there's ever really a point where I was like, oh, this is me. I think it was more of I have been doing this so long that it's just kind of been like attached to me, if that makes sense. Like it is something where I didn't really realize, I guess, like that it is like been absorbed into me until kind of sitting afterwards, like, I've been doing this a lot. Like I was counting up the results, I think, from another part of the panel where I was checking the like my win rate between like last year, and it was like, okay, my win rate was like 65% of getting it in 0, and then otherwise, never having missed one. And then the numbers, I think, up until I think the numbers might be slightly better now, but at least when I was editing the PowerPoint, it was like 81% or some crazy like get it in 0 rate. And at that point I was like, oh, this is me now. It wasn't a thing of like, yes, this Spellify is my thing. It's more of being in the weeds so long, you're like, I am a weed. I have become part of the meadow.
Has working in these quick structured bursts, right, that you're asking your brain to do for these, right?
Yeah.
At midnight. I'm going to keep emphasizing that, chat. Midnight. Has it taught you anything about your own strengths as a person, as a creator, as a player?
As a creator, I think it's taught me, like, I guess just like once I figured out the process, I can get it down pretty well. Like on the one side, it's all midnight, but now maybe it's a combination of process, maybe it's a combination of routine, but it is a very like structured process that it is now. It is literally like cool. Like Spellify goes up, record it. It now goes back through OBS to get remuxed because it records as MKV and I have to put it to like an MP for specifics. Drag into my editing software, throw in some couple plugins to help edit out the silences, make a couple other edits, and then go, cool, I'll edit the rest of this in the morning. And now that I have like a thing to actually make my subtitles for me, so I'm not just, doing it manually like a maniac. As creator-wise, I think it's taught me just like how to actually keep a process and keep the systems going. As a player, I think it just reinforces like the card knowledge that I have. It's nice to be able to like know what cards and what people are talking about, especially like it maybe gets a little granular, but like working in a game shop where it's like people are trying to figure out like, hey, what's like a good card for this thing? What's something you recommend? It helps be able to be like, oh yeah, XYZ card. Do we have it? Okay, we have it or we don't. But at least now they have like a good direction to go off of or something else for a deck recommendation. What was the third one? There was player, creator. What was the third one?
I was just saying as a person.
Person is honestly maybe a little bit tougher to like pin down exactly. Maybe honestly I'd say just like like my ability to be consistent. And maybe that's making me feel good for like, all right, I've been able to consistently keep this one video type going, regardless if like I'm on vacation or if I'm like, not necessarily at my full editing rig to do this. I remember there was a trip I went out to for a different card game competition, and I realized, I have to record. Let me learn how to use the screen recorder on my phone real quick. Because I still wanted to fill in for Spellify.
Do you feel like it highlights part of your personality that doesn't always come through in long form play?
I think it does. I don't think I've necessarily tried to exert a different persona of myself within my my long form stuff. I think the persona I at least try to give off is like maybe a bit smarmy, but someone that knows what they're talking about and is competent in the skills as in the game of Magic. And I think maybe some of that kind of bleeds through in Spellify. The other part that maybe Spellify gets to show off that I don't get to show off my regular content is just like getting to like kind of gush about cards without having to necessarily go off a script.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes like the Draco Genesis video or just like there's some other like card focused videos I did a couple of years ago when it was like all the Outlaws Thunder Junction Commander decks. I try to like find an interesting card from each of those decks and highlight it or just something different about it to talk about. And obviously that's like one kind of different because it's stream of consciousness, but I also want to edit it so I can like, make it be good for the video kind of thing. As much as I want retention and all that for Spellify, I do like that I kind of just get to sit around for like, 3-5 minutes, edit it down later. I'm just like, yeah, this card's all right, I guess. Or like, it's got a dog water. It's got a good, you do some goofy stuff with it.
Okay. So we've reached kind of the midway point. So this is where Jesse and I like to do flavor text or song lyric. So what Jesse and I do is we will read some words at each other, and we have to guess whether it is Magic the Gathering flavor text or a song lyric. Jesse, I have like 4 to choose from tonight. I came prepared.
I have 3.
Oh, you were equally prepared. We were down to like 0 last time, so we did our homework. I think I'm going to go with this one, and I think...
I'm curious if Josh is going to be able to identify it with his knowledge.
Josh, you get to play along, but we don't share our answers till the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get some time to kind of stew on it.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to read first or second, Jesse?
It doesn't matter to me.
I will read first. All right. As the red day is dawning and the lightning cracks the sky, they'll raise their hands to the heavens above, with resentment in their eyes.
Josh immediately smiled as soon as you started.
I know this.
All right. Mine is, if it comes for you, die boldly or die swiftly, for die you will.
Okay. I don't recognize that.
I don't either, but I think I have a good guess.
Yeah, it's...
If he gets both of them, that'll be hilarious.
That would be great. Again, this just tells us how his brain works, right?
Yep, I'd be fine with it.
That feels Phyrexian, and I say this every friggin' time because Jesse's got a theme.
Mostly because my heavy metal lyrics are very Phyrexian, I guess.
For me, it sounds like something, not Phyrexian, but it does sound like something that'd be on like an old border set, like pre-modern.
Yeah. All right, diving back in. So when you think about how process games or puzzles in general, like how you think about them, what parts of your background or interests do you feel show up in the Magic content?
I'd like to hope for going to school for 4 years for it, my game development degree shows off a little bit for it. I wasn't like a big puzzle gamer. The most I did was a project that me and a bunch of friends worked on our sophomore year, like a little puzzle game called Valo. You like changed... The idea was basically you would like freeze and unfreeze different color platforms. That was like just the puzzle game. So obviously a bit of a different mental metric of a puzzle compared to like a lot of the Magic stuff. But like one of the things I've really hoped with my content, that is one thing I am a little known as Spellify. I don't think I'm able to really show off as much of my game designer content or like my game developer brain just because of the time restrictions.
Yeah.
I don't think you really have as much liberty to kind of dive into the cool mechanicalness of a card unless you make it super brief. In that case, you probably deserves a more long form video to talk about it. But a lot like the puzzle stuff, I think just kind of boils down with like less of, how do I say? I'm losing track of the questions, unfortunately.
This also paints a picture of how Josh's mind works.
My mind is a hamster wheel that sometimes gets unbolted and just starts rolling down the road. But no, with at least so far with the puzzle game side. I hope that my game designer stuff gets to pop through. It's like, okay, here's kind of how I'm understanding and where it's all piecing together from. But like I said, I think that's not crosswords. I don't think that's like any space I can really show off. The Spellify stuff maybe a little bit towards like the end on card discussions. And I kind of wish there's a better game out there. EDHREC work on that to show off on that kind of side of things from the design standpoint.
There you go.
So every creator brings a certain toolkit, if you will, with them. What do you think yours looks like?
My toolkit's probably somewhere between it's something that I don't think I'm going to try and not be braggy about it, but just like it's not a thing a lot of Magic content creators have of just having played other games. Bluntly put, being at a game shop, people are very, I don't think the word's possessive, but just like very very intense about the games that they like. Especially, unfortunately, so much for like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic, where it's like, the other Yu-Gi-Oh player, it's like, oh, you play Magic, bad game, or like, especially more so with Magic, where it's like they look, people that play Magic, at least from some of the game shops I've been to, really look down on like Yu-Gi-Oh players, that kind of thing. But at least the part of my toolkit that I'm particularly proud of is that I've just played a bunch of different card games, and I just don't think that's something a lot of other Magic players have really done. Part of that's just from like working at the game shop, where it's like, okay, well, I have to play these games, so I have an idea of what I am physically selling to somebody to give them an idea of what they do. Part of it's also for my work helping on some other games here and there, and also just playing other games. Like if I was to name the games I probably played the most besides Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh for years. I was a massive Hearthstone gamer, like from high school onwards. Illustrals, I've helped out some parts here and there design-wise, which have been really fun. God, besides that, like Battle Spirit Saga, which is a Bandai game that they unfortunately killed off way too soon, in my opinion. Now you're good, Bob. That's like one of the major parts of my toolkit, I'd say. The other part is just bluntly like having the game development background. I think one problem that the community has sometimes, especially with just like the fervor that gets wrapped up for like a card reveals kind of thing, for like, this card's crazy, it's gonna nuke the game. Bluntly to say, it is a lack of understanding that I think the community has for what goes into designing Magic product in general, and having any sort of, I don't want to say like, oh, well, you've never been there, so you know what you're talking about. But there's also a level to it of like not having the awareness of what goes into it, despite the massive amount of stuff online from Rosewater and Gavin Verhey about what goes into designing Magic products.
Yeah, and when Aaron Forsyth was writing articles as well from R&D, I mean, really pulling the curtain back on all that. It's very important. That's a really good point.
It is shocking because I think Magic has some of the most publicly documented information on a card game. Like Konami for Yu-Gi-Oh! You'd have to like waterboard them to get any information out of what goes on behind the scenes design-wise. Pokemon, I don't think really focuses as much on the design side. There's probably more out there about like what gets decided on what Pokemon get like art done for them or what cards get made for a set, rather than the gameplay decisions or the design decisions and intentions that go into these games. Bandai is maybe a little bit better on their games because they actually have some breakdown on why certain cards get banned versus limited in their games and have some sort of breakdown explanation there. Konami has maybe a tiny bit for like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Mobile game stuff. But like I said, it's shocking with just how much stuff there is out there for Magic that there's still, like, I guess the fervor for, like, they don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of things I could personally disagree with for what decisions get made, but it's not, like, an attitude of, like, oh, they're ruining the game. It's, like, nuking it down. It's like, no, like, maybe that's another thing I could at least point to. I try to not get super fervored into, like, overall discussions. There are cards I will get extremely passionate about for saying if they suck or not. Draco Genesis is one of. I literally just recorded a thing about the Walls of Bossing Say. That card, slight minor tangent, that card is $25. You are paying 8 mana to get time walked by an Abrade. I refuse to believe that card's good.
It's true.
Anyway, but no, just like between stuff in the toolkit, just like the general ability to discuss a game design concept to an everyman. One of the things I was doing through college and even like afterwards was producer work. So kind of a lot of like being the person who translate different disciplines to other people. So it's like, okay, art needs something, I got to explain that to the design team. Design team needs something, I need to explain it to the programmers. Programmers need something, explain it back to the art team in all the context that they can understand. Between code switching and just like what everybody needs to be able to do. And I'd like to think I can bring that with my general content and my scripting of, you need to have some magic knowledge to understand like some of the combos or just kind of the explanations for why something is there. But I like to hope I can also explain it well enough that you don't need all the background knowledge to understand, oh, this is why this concept is good in this particular deck, this particular strategy, etc.
Josh brings a lot, is what I'm hearing. So
a lot of yapping too.
Everyone has a thinking style, right? What do you default to? What's yours? Are you structure first? Are you a pattern person? Do you go logic first? Is it option D, something else?
When it comes to Spellify, obviously that's something that's like just pattern based, just from like how much I've been doing it. When it comes to, if I was kind of give an example of like another one, I guess maybe it does overall like kind of go patterns. One big one was a video I put out like last year. I'm hoping to make like a follow-up for it, but it was basically converting Yu-Gi-Oh cards into Magic and then having them play off other Magic decks in that same time era. So part of it was kind of going like, okay, a Yu-Gi-Oh card is organized like this. So it's like, okay, how can I interpret the level, the attribute, the stats, the effect? How can I translate that into Magic and still have it retain the essence of the Yu-Gi-Oh card? Kind of regardless of the power balance, to be honest. So I guess from that side, more pattern-based, more interpolation of going like, okay, so like this card is level 4, so that means it's probably 4 CMC in Magic. The stat lines of stuff, so like Blue Eyes White Dragon is like the capstone for Yu-Gi-Oh at like 3k attack stat. What does 3k translate to in Magic that still is representative of that general CMC power level? Card types. One big thing I was struggling for with that, with like with Yu-Gi-Oh trap cards, is like, okay, how do you translate this into Magic? It is a card that you can't necessarily cast from the hand. It needs to be played down, set first, should maybe be interacted with potentially, but otherwise, how do you translate that? And that turned into making the trap cards have to be foretold first or cast from exile to be able to be activated. So I guess in that vein, it's a combination of like mostly patterns, but then like some logic and just like how to interpolate something from one set to another, or just from one dialect to another.
Does that same style show up in how you handle other work and other hobbies?
Hard to say, only just because I guess like in the dialect kind of side, when I'm trying to talk with people about different card games at the shop, where it's like, okay, if you've played like one thing, here's how this can translate over to, or like kind of a more surprising one when people come in wanting to like pick up Magic, and it's like, oh, my friends are getting me into this, I just want to get a commander deck. Then I kind of been defaulting to like, okay, so like, do you play other video games? What types of stuff do you play? What type of character or gameplay style do you like? And then part of it's trying to pick out the little bits from what information they can give to me from there to then go, okay, you like, you want to help people, you're a healer in a game, go take the Bumbleflower commander deck from Bloomburrow, or like you like to be really aggressive, or you want to like politic the table, then probably take Blame Game from Karlov Manor. Or like another one where it's just the case of like, all right, well, I've never played a game. It's like, all right, cool. So let me like take you over here and let me break down how a commander precon is kind of set up. There's like 3 styles of it. You have like something based around a card type, you have something based around a mechanic type, or you have something that's just kind of based around a general strategy, and then just trying to fill their brains with all that kind of information. So I guess in that same vein, it's all the same interpolation of like, all right, how can I express this information to somebody in a way they'll actually understand it?
Are there traits or habits from your non-magic life that you notice influencing how you create or solve things?
Stuff from my non-magic life. Well, unfortunately, most of my life is pretty dominated by magic. But
like, that doesn't exist. There's no such thing.
Yeah. No, but like, I'm just trying to think here. Not to like, I guess like push the joke further, but at least like a lot of my outside life has kind of been around magic for a good chunk, just around the people that have been just like the places. I'd say like the stuff that probably bleeds into my magic life is, I wouldn't say like competitiveness, but just kind of like the way I'll say it is like the way I kind of expect people to want to operate. Maybe it's off like my competitiveness, but my general style when I want to play Magic is I'm going to play to the best of my ability. This is to win, but I'm also expecting you to have the courtesy to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to, maybe it's like a personality thing. I want to see people performing at their best. I don't like it when it's like, okay, don't kneecap yourself. Don't dumb yourself down.
Oh man, Josh would not like playing with me then.
Yeah.
There is a level, I guess, in gameplay etiquette of sandbagging of like, okay, like, you know, you want to still make a fun experience at the table. And I've definitely done that myself too, where it's like, all right, I recognize that maybe I've brought like a little bit too much heat, so I got to tone down the spice. But kind of the attitude is like, I want to see people at their best. And it's a little disingenuous if you're going to, for one, I guess, complain to me about like, oh, why, like, why are you pushing so hard to win? I don't want to win. I just want people to do their best. And it doesn't preclude anybody when you are actively kneecapping yourself. You should be trying. I understand that Magic is not as serious of a craft for some people. I'm probably someone that takes Magic probably too seriously. We all might be people that take Magic too seriously because we have surrounded ourselves knee deep into this murk, this swamp of Magic. But despite that, I don't think you should be the type to complain if like, oh, like someone's going too hard kind of thing. It's like, well, no, it's something you need to learn from. It's something you should experience. You should be able to take something away from that to hopefully improve your own like attitude on this thing. And if not, then hey, that's on you. But like I said, I personally just want to see people run at their best. I want to see people run at their optimum.
So could that also be like Josh wants to bring out the best in people?
I'd like to hope that I try to.
Is there something outside of gaming that ended up translating really well into the way that you approach Magic?
Maybe just like personality wise. I've had some friends tell me where it's like, yeah, you do play, kind of more of the spiky kind of attitude, but you're not I'm not sure, I guess, on how cool we are with like swearing on here, or if it's too much.
We're PG-13, so you get one F-bomb.
All right. Basically just like, hey, you're not a jerk when you're playing Magic, so you're actually enjoyable to be around. I guess a lot of my stuff going through like college was doing like student ambassador work. So a lot of that was like talking with parents and students like, hey, is this right for you? And not being the person that's trying to sell them on the school. That was financial aid's job and like the other parts of the college. My job was to be honest as a student and to give people the actual presentation of what it's like being a student at the school and what the experience is like. And I wouldn't say blunt honesty per se, but just like honesty, like, hey, this is the real of how it is. And just I guess the way carrying myself personality wise, I guess that has helped lead me into some decent stuff Magic wise.
Were you also an RA or anything at school?
I was not an RA.
You were not an RA.
No.
Okay, because sometimes those go hand in hand.
No, I was just an ambassador.
Okay. So you wanted to show off all the cool things, but you didn't want to like be that guy.
I don't want to be someone's parent in an apartment. My college was not like a massive campus. It was one 3-story building out in Redmond, Washington that like was previously like a Nintendo or Microsoft building.
Okay.
And the student housing was like apartment complexes that the school rented out that then sold back to the students.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. What parts of Magic excite you the most right now, today, November 28th, 2025? Is it the mechanics? Is it design trends? Is it card types? Is it what approaches Wizards is taking right now? Is it nothing? Are we critical right now? Where are we at? Where's the pendulum for you?
Right now, I think if Avatar didn't succeed as well as it did, I'd be way more critical. However, design-wise, mechanics-wise, I love what Avatar is doing. I'm still frustrated with how Spider-Man turned out, just because I think that had a lot more potential, and I think a lot of it got wasted. And that's an entire video in itself, honestly. Of like,
yeah.
It is the colloquial drum to beat. It is the dead horse that we all must collectively kick.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like right now, I like what Avatar did. I like a lot of the stuff that came out. It was probably one of the more, despite my pool being garbage, probably one of the more interesting pre-releases I've done. I'm over the moon excited for Lorwyn Eclipsed. Horde of Notions is like my favorite commander of all time.
I'm so close to building that, but I'm waiting now till the elemental deck in the new ones.
I feel so bad. I'm like, Horde, buddy. I love you.
It's going to get
Wizards
outclassed.
Is gonna put you out of a job.
We know it. We know it is. That's why I haven't built it yet. I was this close to building it a couple months ago, and then I saw the commander deck in Atlanta. I was like, well, that's out.
But I'd say right now it's definitely like mechanically, I think surprisingly all the bending stuff feels kind of cool. Maybe waterbending is the worst, but it's still like very interesting for the applications. The one part I am annoyed about is that more than likely the bending stuff is going to be isolated to solely Avatar.
Right.
Unless, it's funny, I heard this decision get done of like them changing web slinging to in web on Arena, which is, I'm annoyed by that because like, cool, you're making it more complicated to get people from Arena into paper. What's the point of that? But then it's funny because like, well, I guess if you want to make more bending cards, you have to change the keywords to remove the avatar connotation. And I don't want to say I'm for it, but I would love an excuse to get more bending cards into the game, because all the bending mechanics are really cool. Like, genuinely, it's like if they want to errata Awaken to just be Earthbend X, honestly, that might be the way to go about it.
Right.
So there's been obviously a lot of variety in the recent Magic sets. Is anything standing out to you that's especially fun to dig into?
Let's see.
Other than Avatar?
I mean, we got to gush about all the bending, right? But is there anything else that's jumped out? Or is that it? That's also okay, right?
So, not that, like, mechanics have been bad kind of thing. Unfortunately, I'm the kind of person that doesn't always do deck building. I have kept around the same 6, 7, 8 decks for a while now, and, like, most of the time I've just kind of, like, been adding and, like, subtracting stuff. The last new deck I built was Sammy Wildcat Captain from Edge of Eternity, because I read Affinity... Your spells have affinity for artifacts, and went and saw dollar signs because I thought they could not have legally printed this on a card. I refuse to believe that. And artifacts besides elementals are like one of my favorite card types. And I said, cool, I want to break this in half if possible. And that's been really fun to do. I mean, affinity is an easy mechanic, but in Boros turns out it's a little... Well, it's not that difficult because there's so many artifacts, but like...
Yeah.
That's been like one cool thing. Beyond that, surprisingly, because I made a video about it because I made the deck for the Professor's deck building challenge, Symbiote Spider-Man from the Spider-Man set, with the whole thing about like exiling from the graveyard to then put a 1/1 counter on a creature and then giving it his abilities is really cool. Like I don't think they accounted for the interaction that you could put that on a land creature like Creeping Tar Pit and do it repeatedly, and now you have multiple instances of the Symbiote Spider-Man's effects. So that's been really cool. It's been little like one-off mechanics here and there I think that have been really interesting to grapple onto. I think overall I haven't been completely sold on a lot of the other mechanics, but like maybe overall set trends, like Tarkir Dragonstorm, loved seeing the return of like, here's an excuse to just have like a bunch of mana colors on something, but also have all the hybrid costs. That entire cycle of like, you can either pay the clan's mana or just pay like a generic 6.
Yep.
I think is really cool. I'm kind of surprised we haven't been seeing more of that lately. I think Station...
But Josh, all the hybrid talk right now. Careful. Be careful.
You know, okay, that's actually, I guess, on the mechanical side. I'm torn of the hybrid mana argument because on the one hand, I think it's really cool that opens up literally an entire new level of deck building. However, the problem is that you will run into a problem of just now everything's even more generic because now there's like consistently new best options to include into your decks. It's cool, but also it removes, I think, a genuine element of deck building that people gravitate to, which is restrictions breed creativity. Limitations breed
arguments.
creativity. It's I like the hybrid stuff is cool, but I don't think it'd be healthy for the long-term creativity and just like overall deck building goals of the game. Might be cool for like some pre-con stuff, so Wizards now has like a wider pool of stuff to actually add in. But I think once you've elevated out from a pre-con status to upgrading or just like more stuff, you are significantly diluting the card pool, and I think more decks just become good stuff piles than actually like anything kind of remotely creative.
I agree. It's like he read my blog post.
Surprisingly, I don't think I did actually. That's all my thoughts.
Close. It's very close.
I was going to say, I think I have very similar arguments in there, actually. Pros and cons that you went over. That's pretty funny. So you're kind of tight with EDHREC, right? So how do you see your role in that space and evolving maybe what they're doing or how they're influencing Spellify, right? Because as I think about this, and you touched on it, they're going to run out of cards eventually for Josh. For
me specifically. Unfortunately, I don't know, I guess, what direction they want to take into Spellify. And obviously, I'm super stoked. I can say that I've gotten to work with EDHREC on stuff. Like I will be 100, much like the initial panel submission for Atlanta. I was also equally going like, this isn't going to get me anywhere, submitting my little request email to EDHREC like, hey, or Space Cow Media, because that's the parent company of like, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. If you can, if any of the people that worked on Spellify want to talk with me on this, I'd really love it. I get if you don't want to have anybody. And when Andy got back to me, like, yeah, I'd love to. And it's like, all right, cool. Let you know if I get a response back. And then I got the response back and said, all right, Andy, we're in business. Let's like get on a Discord call at some point. So I guess it's weird to think that I actually might have some influence for what EDHREC wants to do. I don't want to say that I'm the sole audience that they are building games for, but I don't know. I would hope that there's at least some direction, and maybe like a couple other things. Like I know with the crossword stuff, they sent me the beta one right before, like the week before it came out, so I got the chance to talk with Nick, who's like their content creative head. I might have the wrong title there, but he's one of the head guys helping build content, so I got to actually give him my feedback and say, hey, here's some stuff that I thought usability wise was bad versus good. And
that taps into your game design background too.
Yeah, a little. I mean, that less game design, more of, I guess, like the UI, but that's still an element of game design for, like, you know, is your website usable kind of thing. But for where I think hopefully my influence to Spellify goes to, and what that influences EDHREC to do, honestly, I'd be interested to see if they want to bleed out the card pool to just be wider, to start going into, like, instead of like the top 500 or so, maybe drop into like the top 1,000, just to like expand things out, have a little bit more variety. Because, like I said, you know, I've been starting to see some duplicates. I think I'm not sure like how much it's going to be like, oh, I've definitely seen these kind of thing, or it's more of that. But I hope that it encourages them to expand it out, make things a little harder for people.
Okay.
Just to have a little bit more fun there.
Listen, feedback is important to anyone who's trying to build something. So the fact that you're able to have those conversations is a big deal. Changing gears here. So Josh, listen, my anime era ended with Cartoon Network's lineup, like Dragon Ball Z, Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, right? That whole wave. So the newest anime I've watched is Dragon Ball Super. That kind of tells you where I live, right? So when you posted this Gojo card on your YouTube in a magic frame, I'm like, I have absolutely no idea who this is. And then immediately I looked at the card and I went, holy shit, this card is strong. So when you translate a character idea into a magic card like Gojo, how do you decide where it actually lands inside of Magic's framework? You touched on that a little bit with Yu-Gi-Oh, right? But I'm talking color identity, mana cost, size of the effect. Basically, like, how do you anchor something that's that wildly powerful? I'm like asking Google, who is Gojo? Is he truly like, I'm not even kidding when I was researching this stuff, right? So how do you do that?
So part of it is from, I'm not going to be like reading the source material, but also on the topic of like anime, I'm always up to date on Shonen Jump. I love reading manga. It's definitely one of my pastimes there, and just kind of pulling from that for like how to adapt characters was one thing. For something like Gojo, where like I broke down a bit in the video, but it's like, all right, the elements of Magic's color pie, which on the one hand, yeah, you have about all these color bleeds and all these types of effects, but what's nice is that they've consistently kind of talked about like, okay, here's kind of what each of these colors represents. So like white kind of revolves around a lot of like unity, community. Blue is a lot of intelligence and like quick wit. Red is more passion. Black is more ambition. Green is like nature versus nurture type attitudes. It's like with Gojo, I kind of broke down the short there, but it's like, all right, so like, you know, kind of breaking down as a character's personality. Gojo is a character that is insanely battle smart. He's constantly rivaled and hyped up as like one of the smartest characters of the series. He's definitely like, you know, passionate. His attitude from parts in the story and just, you know, all of the, I mean, you've probably seen bits of the anime here and there where he looks like a maniac just trying to, you know, like running up through the nature guy.
Yes, as I was researching this and during your short, we saw some of that. Yep.
And then just this one that specifically caught to me that made me want to put him into black was just like ambition is like his kind of overall encompassing attitude. He wants to be the best sorcerer. That is his like kind of modus, and he's constantly hyped up as the greatest sorcerer, but ambition like constantly drives him. And part of the reasoning, at least specifically with Gojo, was because I have another couple wanting to come out, and I wanted to make a dichotomy with him and the main villain Sukuna. So part of it's not just of like also how's this character represent in the story, it's also I guess more so how I want to represent it in cards, where I can make kind of cool cycles or cool references and like kind of the character relations and bring that from a show or a series into custom card design.
So in that Gojo design specifically, right? We looked at it, the hybrid setup and everything. You could cast him for 2 black, right?
Yeah.
So that's a deliberate choice. When you think about hybrid pips, when you design this card, you talked about ambition, right? And he's this borderline untouchable character. How did you come up with your magic pips for Gojo in particular?
For me, I'll be honest, this is going to maybe hurt some people. It was very much vibes based. more so than from a hard design standpoint. Because when I think of a pure Grixis character, I think of someone that is like, for unfortunately part of how Magic is typecasted, but Grixis tends to center around being diabolically evil and just kind of that entire framework of character design. It's annoying that they haven't really, I guess, maybe in the, what is it? The Edge of Eternity story, because I know there's like one of the main characters, Alpha Rail or something. He's a mono black character, but I don't think he's necessarily a villain in the context of the story. But the problem is that most of Magic's villains have fallen somewhere into the color pie of black plus red plus blue, shake-up combination pretty much, but always focused around black. Again, part of it was the decision of like, okay, well, I want this to tie in with a Sukuna card later, so I want that dichotomy to show there. But at least with Gojo, specifically for the hybrid pips, partly it was like, okay, I want to make this like not feel too bad to have to cast in the world of being commander, given the fact also that to get him out and then his abilities are all like different colors of mana type thing. So if you can just isolate it into black, then it makes it a little easier to do the other parts of the cards. The other part, again, is a character whose entire like personality and overall attitude is defined by ambition. I think that's at least a kind of cool way to express through the card itself without having to necessarily shout into your ear, "Excuse me, sir, this character's goal is being ambitious." Here, it's a nice little like it's a design off the cuff hand gesture kind of thing. Like, hey, you can tell this is what this character's all about. Like, it is, despite having these other elements to them, they are defined by this one thing that takes up the majority of their mana cost.
So let's talk about the other half of the card, right? What's the line between honoring flavor, Gojo being Gojo, and keeping the design from becoming completely unreasonable in Magic context?
There's probably a level just from the get-go where it's like, okay, this can't be just like an indestructible character. I have come across too many copies and versions of Goku on like custom Yu-Gi-Oh sites where it's like, oh, it's like 5 billion attack at level 12 and like can blow up the moon.
Yeah.
There's a level, I guess, as a player of like, well, what level am I okay with to play against this card? And maybe that's that puts some bias in me, because what I think is okay may be a little too tame for somebody versus somebody else. There might be
Gojo's busted as you built him. Let me be crystal clear. Busted.
But I was thinking of like, okay, well, to try to keep something here and there, well, to represent the infinity stuff, like, okay, he's not completely indestructible, but he just can't take combat damage, but you can still hit him with a dismember and like, break him up that way. There's the level of like what you think other people who engage with that type, maybe so much for on the Universes Beyond side more so than like a custom character, a different custom card, where people understand the impulses and the powers of a character and like what their attitude is. But something like that, where it's like, okay, this needs to be at least at a level where people can agree, yeah, that's probably how that would be expressed as a Magic card. I still had like a couple comments from people like, actually, here's how this would be expressed and, be a little bit better. But I think it really much circles around like what I would personally think is okay to see as a card, even if it's a little more overpowered, and also what is colloquially okay to bring in and adapt from a work of media into the game of Magic.
Interesting. Gojo strong. I'd play the hell out of that card. I mean, for what it's worth. It's a strong card, right?
The one part of that card that I'm still kind of bugged about is having to include the fight stuff on it for Black Flash. I like how it works like flavorfully, but I do recognize, fighting as a mechanic isn't really a thing in Grixis. But it's like, God, I needed some way to like have it in there. And the other part too, for like with Hollow Purple, for like having everything like collide together, there wasn't a good way to do that either without like, oh, well, like, creatures make themselves give each other stats or Midas stats based on their power. It's like there's not a clean way to do this. And I could also do the little bit of like, oh, well, Gojo can like choose himself in something else. He fights it, he gets to untap and do his stuff again. I thought that'd at least be kind of cool. That's another thing too, just like whether it seems fun to actually play. Of course, that's the factor of cards, but like whether you can create cool little synergies with the card versus something else and encouraging its own stuff.
Right. As a standalone, that's one thing. But if you're going to have like a series on
in the context of a whole set, that's something that needs entirely its own thing to it. Though I think that would be kind of a funny excuse to give black fight spells.
There you go. Are there areas of Magic the Gathering that you want to understand more deeply? How long have you been playing again?
I got into
this isn't a credentials check.
No,
by the way. This is.
I got into Magic around 2018 or so. because college had no Yu-Gi-Oh scene, and I was like, well, I want to try something. So the student store I was working at also sold Magic cards. So like one of the first packs I ever got was like Core 2019, and that was like Resplendent Angel. And then I think maybe a little bit before that there was actually no, that was one part of like the more early experiences. The earliest part was going to University of Washington for like their gaming expo, and they were doing drafts of Amonkhet for free. They could just like pop and get the cards for it. In hindsight, like the fact that I vividly remember someone pulling an ordered procession and someone else also pulling an invocation from that like draft, like the invocation special cards, those like the masterpiece equivalents.
Yep. Kind
of funny that I like lock it on that, but that was like my first.
I have a Maelstrom Pulse of one of the hieroglyphs.
Ooh,
from that.
That's hot. I pulled like the Simic Nissa that I thought like, oh, this is super cool, but I don't know anything when I'm drafting. So I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Sure. That's everybody's experience.
Basically.
Are there any like old sets that you want to really get your arms around? Oddball mechanics, rules layers that you want to dig deeper into? Different templating eras?
Oh God, I think I'm a little biased because I just saw the Ristic Studies video on it, but Fallen Empires would be kind of interesting to like really.
I need to watch that still.
It like just for all the weirdness that it has in the set, like all the little goofiness and like all the different game elements that just didn't really pick over. Like, okay, here's like odd level counters. So instead of just a straight 1-1 counter, here's a 1-2 counter. So all the different elements there. I mean, it helps we're like going back to that same block in like a month or two. But Lorwyn, this might be weird to say. I have gained a larger appreciation for the older sets of Magic because a lot of my work has been going through older sets and like pricing out bulk to enter into our system at the shop. So I'm talking stuff like original Ravnica, Lorwyn block, original Kamigawa block, and even like some of the old border stuff too. Like I feel like I'd really want to dig into that old stuff because as it turns out, obviously a lot of it's the foundation for like modern Magic. Like literally when you think of it, Ravnica itself is just it's defined like the color pairs for the past 20 years. It's insane that like something from that long ago.
When you talk about color pairs, it's which guild is it?
Yeah, it used to be, I think, just like with the or like the color abbreviations, but now it's the guilds. And even like, you know, old Kamigawa has a bunch of goofy stuff. I was just talking with some friends earlier today about like I was talking with Jose, Hope's Beacon, and he built out like a bracket 1 Amane deck from Champions of Kamigawa. It's a 12-drop Golgari legend that like if you cast it from your hand, you can get a spirit from deck into play. And then if you like when it dies, you can exile it and then get like any number of spirits back to your hand. Like those are cool mechanics. They suck in the modern day, but it's so cool. It's really cool, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to try to maybe at one point dive more into for like just how to maybe get some of that stuff that was maybe kind of, I wouldn't say malformed per se, but just like it was still maybe prototyped. It was still in the oven at that point, and try to make it work more with modern sensibilities.
I think Design, Morrow, Gavin, all of them, they have no problem admitting their swings and misses and what they learned from them. And you know, that's a really good point because you get to go back and then you see that evolution. You see the stumbles, you see the corrections, you see how they're moving forward. So that's a good place. I would recommend that if you have some free time, go dig into the crappy mechanics in Kamigawa. Like, tell me what the sweep mechanic does. I don't remember. I know it's a keyword. Is it return a land?
So it's one of those. Okay, so I call them Spellify. I call them fake keywords because if they were like a full real keyword, it would just have the keyword there. But instead, it's like keyword hyphen do the thing here. And sweep, I think, is like return any number of lands to your hand to do this effect.
It is. That's it. It's crazy, right? You look at that and you're like, is that a real keyword? No, it's a fake keyword. There's only
like 7 cards,
3,
I think?
4 is what I'm counting, and then there's other cards.
2 in white, limited apparently.
2 in white, 1 in red, 1 in black. Crazy. So when you look ahead, what kind of Magic content or exploration interests you? And you touched on this a little bit, right? Like with the custom cards and everything. But is it more puzzles? Is it more breakdowns? Do you want to go deeper dives? Are you going to maybe go a little bit further into short form next?
So my current like goals and stuff that I have in my head is definitely, I want to do more of the custom cards. I use Magic Set Editor for designing my cards, and I have about like 10 or so cards right now that are in some phase of either like I like where this is at and I'll make a video about it, or like currently in the design stages. a lot of that's because I want to give an excuse to talk about things that I like. Like there's some manga out right now from Shonen Jump, like Akane Banashi, which is shonen manga about rakugo acting. If you have any idea what that is, it is a form of acting in Japanese theater where it is just one person kind of kneeling on a little pillow, and they only have themselves. They have a little like red handkerchief, and they have like a fan. And by changing what they're holding and how they're saying things is how they're switching between characters. But otherwise, it's functionally a one-man show, and you're like telling a story or adapting something about it. It's is shockingly good, and I think it's going to be anime at some point, like either end of this year or like next year. Okay. It's been one of my favorite mangas. There's another one, Ichi the Witch. It's another shonen manga. It kind of plays like Monster of the Week. In a world where only women can be mages, we have like the first male mage, and he's basically been living in the boonies as like hunting animals and just like living off the fat of the land. And he's still like, all right, you have to be like a witch now and like have all this magic power. Have fun with that. And it's a really fun story. So stuff like that, or stuff like so I think I have some cards set up right now for like Edward and Alphonse for Full Metal Alchemist. So talking about those. On that same vein of design stuff, continuing to do more stuff with like converting other games into Magic or Magic into other games. Some friends in real life know, because I've talked about this for like a year now. There is another video in that same vein of like converting from Goat format Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic, except it's for the 2013 Dragon Ruler deck from Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic, and that's only pertinent because Dragon Ruler at that time was like considered one of the end-all be-all best decks in the entire game's history, and I wanted to see how it would fare into 2013 Modern. So that's like probably my next.
Interesting.
So there's that. There's some other little things here and there. A friend of mine at work has a Commander Cube, and I've noticed, hey, there's not really like a big Commander Cube or any like kind of cube kind of focus on YouTube in the same. I wouldn't say the same vein of like game nights, because I'll be honest. My personal thing is I want to stay away from necessarily full Commander content as possible. I love Commander content, but the fact of the matter is diluted. It is everywhere on YouTube, and it's like, what do you do to make it different? Like, okay, you have like chaos points, you have like little gameplay elements into it, but I think for me, I think it's better if the community could express more formats and have it be more of a regular thing, like Shuffle Up and Play, where it's not just Commander, it's just people literally just sitting down and playing Magic. I'd love to make more content in that same type of vein of just, and that's kind of what I want to do with like the conversion content, because I obviously have recorded gameplay for it, but it's like I want to be able to sit down with my friends and just shoot it about just like goofy stuff in Magic or just like fun little gameplay bits. So like I said, it boils down to just wanting to do more to involve game design stuff into my content. My channel is called JMarGameDesign, for God's sakes. It can't just all be on the. I love Spellify, but also I want a way to better show off what I think I know about game development and game design.
So is there something you haven't had a chance to try yet, but you want to experiment?
There is it originated out from Yu-Gi-Oh! From a guy named Simo, who's one of the bigger creators in that space. It's called
I've seen him on Shuffle Up and Play.
It's called the Progression Series. Basically, the idea is you start with both players or both people, or however many people in the game, open up a box of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Set and then build out a deck from it, and then, progressing through the entire history of the game. I want to do something like that for Magic. I know there's like one channel that's done some variation of it with like just from the start, and also like with Modern. Basically, you're using like pack opening simulators to build out your collection online, because obviously, who the hell's gonna be able to get a full box, 2 boxes, let alone of alpha or beta? Let's be completely real here.
Nobody.
I haven't won the lottery yet, so.
But it's stuff like that where it's like it's. This whole idea of like limitations breed creativity, and especially in like a 60 card format and there's also like the element of like people getting to kind of watch the collections grow over time and people getting to mess with the decks. It is a series that I would love to do, but also recognize it is a massive time commitment between everybody involved.
Well, you got all of 2026. No big deal.
I got to find people for it too.
Yeah. So if someone's new to your content and wants a starting point, what's a video or project that you'd say go here first?
I would pin my Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic video. It's like, I think one of the top rated if you go to like popular on my channel, from converting from Goat to Magic. It's a video that I'm personally very proud of, just because one, it's bluntly put, it was one of my more successful videos, but two, I put a lot of work into it, and it combines two of my greatest loves, Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, and it's something that I like to be able. I think it encapsulates my stuff where I want to be able to educate people on all the card games that I love. And obviously, after that, go check out some Spellify shorts.
Is there a specific one that you would be like, this is the one? If you are ever going to get hooked on Spellify, this is the short to watch. Does anything come to mind? There's 600 that I'm asking you to parse through now.
Honestly, I want to say it's the one with Kazul, to be completely honest, because that one is like
cool. Okay.
It's a more recent one, so it's at least using some of the new editing, and it's like I don't even know if it's a card that I don't think a lot of people would even be able to recognize, like with just all the blanks. I mean, you have the deck for it, but I don't know if I just showed you the blank card. It's like, yeah, this is the card. Figure it out.
Right. This is the second deck I've put him in now, so this is going to be a Joel and Ellie.
That's two more decks than I ever put him into. I'm going to be completely real with you.
The other one is Thantis the War Weaver, which makes a lot of sense.
That makes more sense. That makes a lot of sense.
They're both Jund decks, Jesse. You should love that.
Jund's my
Jund them out. Jund them out. Jund.
That's my playmat is.
Josh, absolutely fantastic having you on. Thank you for coming on, talking to us about how you think, what you notice, how you've carved out such this fun lane in Magic content. So the floor is yours. What's the best place for people to follow your work and keep up with what you're doing?
Well, if you want to follow me, what I do, I am almost everywhere on social media. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter at JMarGameDesign, or I think Blue Sky is like jmargamedesign.bluesky.app, because Blue Sky wants to just add the random things onto the end of there. I have the link tree too. I think that was just like the link tree / JMarGameDesign. You can find all my other links there, including all the affiliate links to the companies I work with. If you want to support the channel, check those links out. I know a couple of them are doing Black Friday stuff or like Christmas stuff, so throw me a couple bones if you want to. And I also have my own website that's really more of like my professional game development stuff from when I was working more in the industry, JMarGames.com. Hindsight, should probably throw out some blogs about like game design and stuff there. That'd probably be kind of cool to put out. But yeah, really the best place to find me is primarily like YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Those are my big ones to reach out to me at.
Awesome. Everybody go find Josh, like, subscribe, hit all the buttons, just not at the same time. That gets dangerous. So we're now back to flavor text or song lyrics. So, Jesse, as the red day is dawning and the lightning cracks the sky, they'll raise their hands to the heavens above with resentment in their eyes.
It feels like a red card, but I can't figure out what. But it definitely feels like a magic card. I'm thinking of the red card that gives you like 4 red mana for some reason. But
I'm thinking like wrong. A seething song or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but I'm probably wrong. It feels like a red card, though.
I finally got him, guys. I finally got Josh. You know what this is?
I know what this is.
You want him to go, Jesse?
Yeah, what is it?
It's Song Lyrics, Dragon Force.
It's Through the Fire and Flame.
See, you had Song Lyrics last week. I didn't think you were going to do 2 in a row.
So when you said that, I got so happy because one of the first concerts I went to moving out to Atlanta here was Dragon Force, and that show was awesome. What happened was like they didn't sing it for the entire day, and then at the very end they had everyone like chanting encore for like 3 minutes. They finally came back on board, sang it out, and you don't get to live till you get to crowd surf during the solo. Not gonna lie.
Wow.
So mine is, if it comes for you, die boldly or die swiftly, for die you will.
I think that's a magic card. It doesn't sound sing-songy.
I'm leaning to say a magic card as well. That feels like something from like a pre-modern...
You're right. Like it feels like it's something like Ice Age or Homelands. It still feels Phyrexian to me. Like
it's all Phyrexian to me.
Like Phyrexian Devourer or something like that. That's where my mind's going. It's a magic card.
It is a magic card. It is not Phyrexian, though. It is not old. It's Balefire Dragon.
Get out!
Oh! Interesting.
Great card.
Well, I got both, so I'll take it.
Everyone
Balefire
listening,
Dragon.
Go follow Josh where he's active. We'll get the links in the description and everything. Jesse, any words of wisdom this week?
Magic players love puzzles, mostly because we create 90% of them ourselves. But whether your brain is rearranging letters or trying to understand why someone cast a spell before combat, just remember, the real solution was blaming variance all along.
Be awesome out there, and we'll see you next time.